Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the alumni lecture series. We have with us Professor Rabindra Kishore Misra, the former professor of electronic science at Barampur University. Uh, just let me read out a short biodata of Professor Misra, as Professor Misra is very well known to all the alumni members, but there are many like present students because sir will be talking on Indian knowledge system, and we have invited our first year students to join the talk and watch it live on the YouTube. So for their benefit, just let me read out a short biodata of Professor Misra. So sir was a former professor at the Department of Electronic Science, Barampur University, and he got superannuated from the university in the year 2023. He basically his research area is planar antennas and application of soft computing techniques to analysis and design of planar antennas. So he was a Commonwealth Fellow in 99 2000 in the University of Birmingham. Sir has guided more than around 10 PhD theses and has published more than 150 research articles. And he was awarded with many research awards. To name a few, Sir J.C. Bose Award in 1999 and Samandra Chandrasekhar Award from the Government of Odisha, the highest award given by Government of Odisha in the year 2008. So he has occupied many of the coveted positions in the university, starting from head of the department, dean sciences, director of BPCC, and so many are there. And he is very good orator and very good speaker, and he gives very uh, uh, I mean, his research topics mostly based on these outreach activities and a lot of topics related to Indian knowledge system. So, and today he will be speaking on a topic on Indian knowledge system, and the title of the talk is Towards Intellectual Freedom, Restoring the Indian Knowledge System. So, with this short introduction, I request Sir to kindly go ahead with his presentation. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sahu, for a nice introduction. With a short correction, I supervised 25 PhDs. Okay.
Maybe the news, whatever guy got is not correct. Sir, sorry about that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. With that, let me start. New generation may not know us, like me, Professor Pinat Sahu, Professor Manas Patra. We are new to the new generation. Anyway, let me start this topic. Actually, I choose this topic on the request of Dr. Satyavata Prasad. Yes, and otherwise, I was planning to uh, share something on calendar on the eve of the first anniversary of my retirement, but it coincided, so I choose this topic. Please let me know, am I audible? Because
Yes, sir.
hmm, I had some health problem. Don't know whether my voice is clear or not. That I wanted to know. Anyway,
Yes, sir. It is
so
fine.
okay. So the topic is towards intellectual freedom, restoring Indian knowledge system. I will mostly stress on Indian knowledge system. What was it? How it was destroyed, and what actions are being taken, even if small steps, baby steps. What actions are being taken nowadays to get back to at least the basics of Indian knowledge system. So with that, let me start with that introduction. First, there is a statutory warning that we should think over the terminologies that we are going to use in this presentation or talk. So we should think over it again and again before we use the terminology later. So today you listen to some terminology, then you use it, but you should know, understand what is it. properly, then you should use it. That is a statutory warning. Then let me come to Indian knowledge system. So it has three words, Indian knowledge system. What is Indian? It is indigenous source of knowledge generated by the Indian society. But this is what is Indian. Now, when you say Indian, it comes from the main word India. India is actually the concept of Akhand Bharat. That is, it extends from Burma on east to Afghanistan on west, Himalayas on north to Indian Ocean on south. This landmass was called India. Now it is divided into different countries, but the middle one, central part is still India. In this region, why it is called Indian? Because in this region, the culture, the literary excellence, social practices, these were almost common among people, and there was continuous exchange of idea and evolution of idea among people. That is what is Indian. Then what is knowledge? Knowledge is not mere registration of any external object, but internalization of any external knowledge. This can be valid, this can be invalid. Both can be, both can happen with knowledge. And knowledge is different from jnana. Jnana begins with the question, what is that? The enthusiasm to know what is it. That is why it is jnana. It is not mere knowing, but diving or delving deeper into the vast ocean of the mystic world and exploring the treasure hidden in the form of cognition. In what you know, then you use your cognition, explore your cognition to understand what is new. I'll give you one example. Nowadays, many people use Google. Almost everybody use Google or YouTube. Now, I use Google. You have fever or some sort of illness. Use Google. Find out what is the treatment for that, and you go for that treatment instead of going to the doctor. Now, this is mere registration of the knowledge, know-how, because you don't know what type of fever or what type of illness is there, what type of medicine is required. So, the knowledge that you acquired is invalid. If you go to a doctor, doctor checks you properly and finds out what is your problem, then the knowledge that doctor is using to find out it and give prescribe you medicine is valid. So this is brief about knowledge. Then comes the system. By definition, not by computer science definition, by general definition or by humanities definition, it is a structured methodology and a classification scheme to access the available corpus of knowledge by its inherent nature. That is what is system. Now, how you will access knowledge? That depends on the interest of the person who is accessing the knowledge, the purpose for which one is accessing the knowledge, and the capacity of the person who is trying to access the knowledge. If these three are present sufficiently within a person, then it is possible to access knowledge. Then knowledge can be expanded to them. Now, accessing knowledge has a methodology which is called Panchabhayam. In ancient Indian terminology, this was called Panchabhayam. It is the methodology for analysis to explain others what you have known. If you can explain what you have known, what you have understood, then you have access to knowledge properly. And that is done through a method which was called Prathama Anumana. Prathama Anumana. Next. Let us look at the Panchabhayava. What are the Panchabhayavas? First is pratigya. In Sanskrit, it is called pratigya, which is in English thesis or assertion. Then hetu, which is called reason. Then udaharana, which is called example. Then upanaya, which is called application. Finally, nigamana, which is conclusion. So these five steps, panchabhayava, means five steps. Thesis, reason, example, application, and conclusion. Through this, one will acquire knowledge. I am going to give you one example which is very common on the internet. The example is you saw a mountain, and from the mountain you saw smokes coming out. Then you can say that in the mountain there is fire. Why? Because smoke is coming out. Origin is smoke is coming out from the mountain, so there is fire. Example is, we know in Odia we say, niya nathile dhua utheli. So whatever has make smoke, it has fire. Its application you have seen already. So smoke is always invariably associated with fire. Therefore, if there is smoke in a mountain, then the mountain has fire. So we go through these five steps, Panchavayava, and we acquire the knowledge that smoke mountain has fire. Next. Then, in those days, old days, people used learning methods. Two learning methods which are equivalent, although not equal, and these are equivalent learning methods. First is called Dharana, Parana, Vijnana, Prayoga. Second is called Aditi, Bodha, Acharana, and Pracharana. So these are four steps, and each step is equivalent. For example, dharana means knowledge is acquired or mentally grasped. Aditya means study. So you study to grasp the knowledge. Parana means knowledge is understood and digested, which is both of knowledge you have understand. Third is Vijnana. Vijnana is knowledge is deeply analyzed and differentiated. And this is called Acharana practice. Then Prayoga is knowledge is practically applied, so you distribute it among others, practically apply it. Pracharana is teaching. So distributing this is teaching. So this was a learning methodology that was being followed in the early days in the Bharatvarsh. Now this is almost abolished. These states are almost abolished. Next. Then comes how you will acquire jnana. Knowledge is there. Now you have to acquire jnana about anything. How you will do that? That comes from pramanas. Pra means outward or future. Mano means measurement. So if you measure knowing something from that, if you can measure what is going to happen in future, how it is going to affect your future, then you have acquired jnana. This goes through six steps, six pramanas. So there can be pramana, this can be of six types. One is called pratyaksha pramana, which is the pramana that you get from self-experience. Second is called anumana, that is from logical conclusion you get a pramana. Pramana means proof. Third is upamana, which is from examples of similarities to something. Fourth is Arthapati, which is from factual extrapolation, you prove something. Fifth is Anupalabdhi, which is from negative conclusion, you prove something. Sixth is Sabda Pramana, which is you learn something or you get jnana from spoken or written words of which other people have realized and they are speaking to you or they have written something from that you are getting jnana. So these are pramanas that were used in the early days. Next. Then earlier days, people used to debate to extend their knowledge to acquire jnana. proper canon, people used to debate in India. The debate goes through 32 steps. So from here you can see Charaka Samhita defines how the debate goes on. It starts with Adhikarana, which is the first one, to the 32nd, which is Unha. And so these are the steps through which one can engage in debate and finally a conclusion will come. Next. So with this background, let us look at the landscape of Bharatiya Jnana Pranali. The landscape is, we started with in India Vedas. Everybody knows there are four Vedas. These four Vedas have four parts: Aranyaka, Brahmana, Samhita, and Upanishad. So this is the core. Then around this core is the Vedanga. Vedanga consists of Sikkha, which is study of phonetics, Vyakarana, which is study of grammar. Now, Sikkha and Vyakarana, they lead to literature. Of course, Chandas. Chandas also, which is study of reading, that also leads to literature. Then Nirukta, which is study of etymology. Jyotisha, which is the study of astronomy. It is not prediction. Jyotisha is not prediction, which is a misnomer. It is study of astronomy. In India, it is study of astronomy. Later, mythology has come. People have started cheating in the name of Jyotisha, saying that we can do predictions. No, it is not prediction. It is study of astronomy. Then finally, Kalpa, which is the study of rituals. So Veda, Vedanga, then comes the Upaveda. Upaveda, there are four Upavedas. One is Ayurveda, study of medicine and life sciences. Dhanurveda is study of warfare. Archery, in those days, archery was the main part. Then Arthashastra, which is study of political science and commerce, business, etc. Then finally Gandharva, which is study of music, art and dance. Finally, we have two itihasas. Itiha asa means how it has happened. These two are true stories. There are some stories there, but the true facts written in the form of stories with some thing added into that. Those are itihasa, so that people can remember this. These are two itihasas of India, Mahabharata and Ramayana. So this gives us the full landscape of Indian knowledge system. Then we see something else from this landscape. Next. Now, from this, I am going to describe a portion of Bharatiya knowledge spectrum. Not the complete spectrum, it is only a small portion. First is treatise on astronomy by Varamira called Pancha Siddhanta. Then principle of yoga by Patanjali. Then principle of Ayurveda by Charaka, which is called Charaka Samhita. Then Susruta Samhita is a principle of surgery and medicine. Rasid Ramamangalam is by Nagarjuna. It is on science of alchemy, mostly related to Rasayana Jnana or chemistry. Then Kannada gave Vaisasika Darsana, which is principle of physics. Madhava, the Kerala school of mathematics, it started with Madhava. He gave the principle of calculus, trigonometry, etc. Then Aryabhatta gave Aryabhatyam, which is principle of physics, and many more. Now, all these, if you study deeply into this, you will see the principles what we are mentioning here. These are there. With that, there is grammar, there is literature in everything. Next. Now, let us look at some glimpses of the literary excellency that used to exist in those days. I'll start with literature. Uh, I'll take one example, which is called Sisupala Bhagna. I'll tell you who wrote this letter. But Sisupala is the book. If you look at its 19th chapter, 66 sloka, the left one, left side, on the left side, I have given this. It uses only two letters. Read this. Hopefully, you can read Hindi or Sanskrit. Both letters are same. So, if you look at this, it uses only two letters, bha and ra, with so two consonants, bha and ra, with some vowels, E, A, etc. Vowels are there associated with the consonants, but there are only two consonants here. This sloka means I am not going to explain this sloka. One sloka, let me explain. This sloka exemplifies the fight between two elephants, black elephants looking like black clouds, sounding like trumpeting like thunder, and creating fear among the people who are looking at those elephants. This is a description of them in the Sisuparavan. So this one is using two letters. The next one on the right hand side, you look, it uses only one letter, the. The letter is the consonant, and with vowels, it is using only one letter, which is describing Lord Krishna. The powers, the beauty of Lord Krishna is described in the second sloka. Lord Krishna feels is the power that you may be known. Next. Then whether this was only in Sisupalabhadhanu, Mahakavi Bharavavi, he has written a book called Kiratarjuniam. In its 15th chapter, 14th sloka, if you look, it uses only the letter no, which is on the left hand side. In present days, Jagadguru Ramabhadracharya ji, many of you might have heard about him, might have seen him, the blind poet, blind Baba, Ramabhadracharya ji. He has written a sloka in two slokas in one book. The book is Bhargava Raghaviyam. In 20th chapter, 92 sloka and 94 sloka. These two, the 92 sloka, is written only in using form. 94th sloka is has used only law. So only one consonant in each sloka. Next. Then this, most of you are acquired, I am sure. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. In English, this contains all the 26 letters of English. Now, if you look at this has vowels and consonants. The vowels are E, O, and U. Vowels are repeated, that is, vowels have to be there, so they are repeated. Not a problem, but consonants, R and T, they are two times. All other letters are used only once. Now, whether we have something like this in Indian language. This is a book written by Bhojaraja. It is called Saraswati Kanthavarnam. In this second chapter, 263rd sloka, look at this sloka. It is written from ka to thya, all the consonants, in the order that they appear, ka, kha, ga, ga, in the order they appear, using the consonants once only. So this is also this excellency in literature also existed in India because people understood what they are doing. They were strong in grammar. Next. And then from this Saraswati Kantavaranam, I am giving you some more examples. The first two lines, they use kakar. Kakar means ka, kha, ga, ga. Only these four are used in that letter. Ka, kha, ga, ga. Second sloka uses two vowels only, E and O, small e, Haswa E and O. These two vowels are used, no other vowels are used. Third sloka uses two vowels, Dirgha E and A. No other vowels are used. Fourth sloka uses only one vowel, U, Harswa U, it uses only Harswa U. And the last sloka uses only one vowel oi. No. So these are gone. Then finally, in the last one, you can see there are four parts. The first part uses only a, second part uses only e, third part uses only o, fourth part uses only a. Next. Then these are pure literary. Then comes literature with mathematics, or literature with physics, or chemistry. In physical science, symmetry is very important. Extremely important is symmetry, because symmetry is associated with conservation laws that we know. Uh, Now, this is a so-called which gives us a symmetry. This is called Sarbota Bhadra, which is equal from all sides. So look at the sloka. The first shabda is taken on the top row. Left side top row is the first shabda. Left side second row is the second shabda. Third row is the first shabda of the second line. Fourth row is the second shabda of the first line. Then you take its mirror reflection, which is below, which means the first row is the last shabda of the second line. Second row is the first shabda of the second line. So this way, last line is the first shabda of the first line. Now add these two tables. If you add these two tables and read from left to right, top to bottom, left to right, or left to right in the top row, top to bottom in the last row, last column, right to left in the bottom row, bottom to up in the first column, you will find the first shabda. Similarly, the second shabda will be the next one. Third shabda will be the next one. This way. If you read it from corner to corner, you will not find the shabda and will not find the sloka, but you will find that left to right corner and right to left corner, these are same. Sa, ya, da, thus, ya, sa. Whether you read from top to bottom or bottom to top, it is the same. So it gives you symmetry from all sides. This thing. Next. So it's a symmetrical pattern. Next. This is another symmetry which is called Murajabandha. The sloka is given above. Now, write the first sloka in the top line, second sloka below it, sorry, second sabda below the top line, third sabda below that, fourth sabda below that. Then join these with the red lines. The red lines I have shown, dotted lines. So join them. Then, if you follow the yellow part, that gives you the first sabda of the sloka. If you follow the green part, that gives us the last the last sabda of the shloka. If you follow the blue part, that gives us the second sabda of the shloka, and the other part gives us the third sabda of the shloka. So there is some sort of symmetry here. This is called Murajabandha. Next. Then, in English, or in many Odia also, there are words which you pronounce from left to right, right to left, both you will get same. Odia, Hindi, etc. Jahaja, for example, Jahaja. Left to right, right to left are same. Similarly, look at the first sloka. If you look at the first sloka, the first sabda from left to right is same as right to left. Second part is left to right, right to left same. So that happens for all the parts, all the four parts. The left to right and right to left are same. So this is called Pratiloma Anuloma Pada. Pratiloma Anuloma Pada. Then there is another thing called Gomutrika Bandha. So the last sloka here, if you write the last sloka, the first line on the top, separate the letters, write it in the first line. Similarly, separate the uh, letters, write it on the second line, the bottom line, then connect them in the zigzag way. So one after another. So pra, then bru, then ta. So red line is showing red zigzag is from past pra to bru, etc. That goes up to V. Then second line you connect the blue one. Now if you follow this red line, then you will get the first line. If you follow the blue line, you will get the second line. What we have done, we have written the first line in the top, we have written the second line on the bottom. But if we follow this pattern, the symmetry, we are getting the first line not following the first row. It is not required. If you follow this zigzag pattern, you are getting the first line. Similarly, the second line. So this is called Gomutrika Bandha. Next. This is called Ardha Brahmaka, another symmetry. So similarly, this sloka is there. Now, first line separate the letters, second line separate the letters, third line separate the letters, fourth line separate the letters. Then form boxes. Then first column, top to bottom, and the last column, bottom to top, gives you the first sabda, first word. Second line, top to bottom, second row, top to bottom, and last but one row, bottom to top gives us the second word. So this way it happens. So that happens for all other words also. This is called Ardha Bhamaka. The symmetry, you can see the symmetries were there. Actually, I do not have much time, otherwise I would have gone on to explain the uh, symmetry and how it is associated with conservation laws. If you read this deeply, you will find that these are associated with conservation laws. Different conservation laws, different symmetries, how they are associated with conservation laws, but that will take much more time, much more understanding is required. Next. Then I will come to the final part, Chakravandha. Same from the Sisupara I am writing the Chakravandha. So four lines of a sloka. What do you do is first look at the first three lines. On the first three lines, there is this letter Ra. At the center of first three lines, there is this letter Ra. So since it is at the center of first three lines, we can form three diagonals, sorry, three diameters of a circle with Ra at the center of the circle. So on the right hand side, we have three diameters of a circle with Ra at the center of the circle. Then what we'll do is we'll divide the circle into different sectors. The innermost sector will contain Ra, then just outside that all the letters, then outside that all the other letters. So that way you divide into sectors. Then finally what we'll do is write the last line in the outer sector, outermost sector. There we write the last line. Now you will look at the beauty of this. Next. So if you look at this uh, pink portion, it writes what is written here. It is written here Sisupara Bhatta, which is the book that is written. Then look at the next one. It writes Magha Kavyamidam. Magha Kavyamidam, which means this Kavya is written by Magha. So the Kavi or who has written Sisupara is Magha. So that is written there. So in this way, if you arrange it, this is something nowadays we call cryptography. Cryptographically, those people used to write this thing, give these things to us. So we know uh, how cryptography in different forms were used in India. This is one form. So the book name and the writer's name both are there. This one has to understand that. Next. Then we'll see some glimpses of astronomy and computer science in ancient India. Actually, in my earlier talks, I have discussed this. So this I will give brief introduction to these things. First is British people. They were good, they were bad both. The good thing is they researched on the Aryabhata system, and a book was written by Fleet on Aryabhata system of expressing numbers. And I like look at the underlining part for the revolution of song. These are not difficult to retain in memory. Which is not difficult to retain in memory? Which is within the box, which is written Maki, Bhati, Paki, etc. Which means it looks like a Sanskrit shloka, but it is not a Sanskrit shloka. Actually, it is a alpha syllabic number system. Maki means 225, Bhaki means 224. So this way, he used to give the numbers so people could can easily remember the number following a table. There is a table which associates numbers with syllables or with a letter. So if you follow that table, you will get this. I'll give you example of another table later. Now, what is this? Maki, Vaki, Paki? These numbers are actually R sign differences in terms of minutes, not degree, in terms of minutes of the earth. So this is one of the beauty of Aryabhata beyond zero and other things. Now this comes from the work on geometry. Jya is the Sanskrit word for a bow and arrow. If you look at the bow and arrow, or if you pull the bow or the string of the bow, it looks like a jya. So from that it comes the sign is looks like a jia. That became in Persian it became jiva. When it transferred to Latin it became sinom, and when it transformed to English it became sign. So sign the origin is India. Next, this is another alpha-syllabic number system which is called Potapayadi, the numeric system. This, if you look at the Sanskrit shloka, it describes the mm, prayer for Sri Krishna. O Krishna, the fortune of gopis, destroyer of demon Madhu, etc. But if you match the numbers given in this table with the shloka, with the letters of the shloka, you will get a number which is 3.1415926535, etc. Many of you who have read science even in school days must remember that 3.41141 is pi. So this is the number. This is pi correct up to 21 points, with one exception in this 21 decimal points. It is correct value of pi. So they used in the old days. Remembering pi, this big number is difficult, but if you make it in the form of a shloka or make it in the form of a poem, then remembering poem is easier. So through that shloka means in those days, poem was called shloka. So remembering a poem is easier. So they used to do this. Next. Then the next one is Chanda Shastra. Uh, And this gives you pratyayas or algorithm. In the Chanda Shastra, the main part is pratyayas or algorithms, which are combinatorial algorithms. There are six algorithms, and I will describe only one out of these six I have described earlier. So you can look into my previous lecture. This I will describe log Kriya. or Lagu Kriya in short form. Next. There, from that algorithm, we got the first binary system. It should not be number. It is binary system. Then I'll tell you why it is called number, why I have given number. What they did is they said, uh, Pingalacharya, who wrote the Chanda Shastra, he divided the syllabi into two parts. One is called Guru, one is called Lagu. Guru means to pronounce it, you take more time. Lagu means to pronounce it, you take small time. All consonants are Guru and vowels are mostly Lagu. So here it says that if you take n number of letters, then how many words you can form from those n number of letters. He said in an algorithm, he proved that the number of words that you can form from n number of letters is 2 to the power n. Um, Now, suppose you take three letters, then you can form eight separate words. On the left hand side, I have shown eight separate words from Laghu and Guru. L is Laghu, G is Guru, which is equivalent to, if I take G as 0, Guru as 0, Laghu as 1, which is equivalent to the second column after the equivalent sign. If I take the mirror reflection of that, that gives me the binary numbers. Now, the question is whether Pingalacharya gave this thing, this 0 1, or he stopped at Laghu and Guru. To answer that, let me tell you, on the left hand side or on the right hand side, extreme left or extreme right, you can see I have written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, suppose somebody says that you have three letters and at the fifth row, what is the combination? He gave an algorithm for that. Using that algorithm, you will find that the combination has to be GGL. And that algorithm uses 0 and 1. Using 0 and 1, we found GGL. Similarly, suppose a combination is given GLG, which row it will occur. We gave another algorithm from which you will get, at the third row, you will get GLG. And that is the unit. And so those algorithms he gave, those algorithms used 0 and 1, how to get it, dividing by 2, etc. Those algorithms are detailed. Therefore, he knew that 0 and 1 can be used with this. That is what I told you earlier, that these books, these shastras that we are discussing, they are not only rich in grammar, they are rich in mathematics. You have to understand. You have to read it thoroughly and understand what they are saying in those books. Next. Then this is Lakriya. You know, most of the people in physics, mathematics, even in computer science and electronics, they know this Fibonacci series, which earlier in India people called Meru Prastha. So this table that you see, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, etc., that gives you the Fibonacci series. How to form that table? That is done by Lagrange. So that algorithm is given on the left hand side. I am not going to read it out, and most of you must be knowing this. Now, if you add the corners, that gives the binomial coefficients, which means if you are going to extend 1 plus x to the power n, what will be the coefficients in that expansion, that those coefficients are given in this. But the good thing about this is Fibonacci, the Italian mathematician, he acknowledged that India mathematics and Hindu numeral systems are being used in Europe, and he has used it. So he writes in his book Libere Abasi at 1202 current era. Many times he writes mathematics, Indian methods, etc. Next. Then let us see mathematics. Some uh, examples in mathematics. Next. So in mathematics, people say India gave zero. The contribution of India is zero. That is not true. Zero was used before Indians by Mayan civilization, by many other civilizations, small three, four civilizations, but Mayans were, I think, the first people to use zero, or at the same time, like Indians, they also used zero. What India did is, in India, they proposed what is a zero. They defined zero and they defined the decimal system. They defined the place value system. Like one, if you take one, put zero on its left side, place is on the left side, zero's place is on the left side, its value is one. Zero's place is on the right side, its value is 10. So place value system also they define. Now we know Kepler said that the Earth is revolving around sun in an elliptical path. When did Kepler give this law? 1609. Okay. If you look at Surya Siddhanta in India, in the fifth sloka, second chapter, the translation of the sloka is when the planets are pulled strongly by sun at their Uchchasthana means apices, they will have highest orbital velocity. This is called Dhanam. And when they move away, their velocity decreases and known as Runam. So they move away and they are close to the sun, they are away from the sun. This happens only if we have an elliptical orbit, not a circular orbit. So in Surya Siddhanta, which is 600 BC or before that, but conservatively people say 600 BCE. People means from the west, they say it's 600 BCE. It cannot be more than that. But I do not believe that. But anyway, even if we accept that, then also 600 BC is where 1609 is where. So there they say this. Now Dhana means more. Now if you look at this, Dhana means more, Runa is less. Based on this more and less, Dhana is wealth or accumulation or credit. Runa is to return if you have taken some or something, some Dhana from something, that it becomes Runa that you have to return. So that is so whatever you have, that will deplete if you have Runa. So depletion or debt. So instead of positive or negative, the concept of positive and negative came from Dhana and Runa. And Sunya or zero is void or empty, or it is just stable state. When you neither have Dhana nor have Runa, it is zero. Now, if you look at it with the present concept also in India, they said all numbers are either positive or negative. If you add all numbers, which means all positive with all negative, like plus 1 minus 1 is 0, plus 2 minus 2 is 0. So that way you take all numbers, add them, you will get 0. So 0 is combination of all numbers. Everything is within 0. Similarly, nothing is there within 0. So 0 is everything, 0 is nothing. This is the philosophy. This is how people believe in India, old generation, they believe this universe was created. Everything is there, nothing is there. From nothing, everything comes out. From everything, nothing comes out. That is the creation of the universe. But that will go to mythology, so I am not going into that. Next. Then pi. Without using pi, pi comes from the concept of circle. The perimeter divided by the diameter is the pi. Is always a constant, is the pi. So this is given by Romans or Greeks. That is what is believed. Without using pi, what you can do for a circle? In India, they say, this is by Aryabhatta, he said, take half the circumference, multiply with the radius, that will give you the exact area of the circle. Half, multiply it with half the radius. So that will give you the exact area of the circle. You don't require pi there. Now second is next. Add 4 to 100, multiply it by 8 and add to 62,000. This is approximately the circumference of a circle whose diameter is 20,000. So if you do that, find out pi. So you know circumference is by adding the above terms. So 62832 divided by 20,000, which is the circumference that gives you 3.1416. So earliest approximation of pi in India by Aryabhatta in Aryabhatian. Next, then Madhava in 1200 CE, he gave pi as a series 1 minus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 5 minus 1 by 7, etc. So an infinity series. So first infinity series for pi was proposed by Madhava. And you know infinity series gives you integration by part. So this is the first stepping stone for fundamentals in calculus. Therefore, Jyotisha or astronomy in India is the root of calculus. This was reinvented by Gottfried Leibniz in 17th century, much later. Madhava is 1200 century and Leibniz is 17th century, but this series is known as Gregory series or later nowadays people are calling it Madhava Gregory series. Next. Finally, pi was given by Ramanujan. This is the expression for calculating pi in the fastest way. Next. Then everybody knows about Pythagoras theorem. The Pythagoras theorem, next, is if you stretch a rope, Bodhayana Sulava Shastra, Sulava Shastra we are going to discuss now. As per Bodhayana Sulava Shastra, if you stretch a rope along the length of the diagonal, that will produce an area which the vertical and horizontal sides make together, that you can see here. So the area of a square by the diagonal is same as the area of the square by the base plus area of the square by the height. So that is what it is. Next. Then Manava Sutra gave it in mathematical form. Multiply the length of a right angle triangle by the same length and the breadth by the breadth, and the square root of the sum of these two results gives the hypotenuse, which is h is equal to root over of p square plus b square. Manava Sutra dates back to 750. So this came after Bodhayana Sutra. Next. Now Pythagoras, who was from 570 to 490, in between that period, he proposed the theorem. Now if you look at this, this is much after Manava Sutra. And he gave h is equal to root over of p square plus b square, or p square plus b square is a square, whatever you take it. Now look at the term written, a line written in the bottom. The Western world accepted Arabic numbers in 10th century. So before 10th century, which is 5th century or 6th century, the period of Pythagoras, there was no Arabic numerals in the Western world. So what they were using? Roman numerals. IV, X square. Try to use numericals, Roman numerals, and find out a square root or square. It will take at least years to calculate, even if you find it out. So it was not Pythagoras who gave this formula. Who gave this formula? Next. The theorem was actually given by Euclid, a Greek mathematician 200 years after Pythagoras, who documented the theorem, which was the first theorem, the top line. A rope traced along the length of a diagonal produces an area which is the vertical and horizontal side next to it. So that was the Pythagoras theorem, not this. H is equal to root over of p square plus b square. Next. Now, what is the role of mathematics? In Jyotish or astronomy, what is the role of mathematics? In the area of geometry, you require calculating radius of planets. In the astronomy, trigonometrical observations are required to calculate relative position of the planets. Similarly, design and manufacturing of astronomical equipments, such as astrolabes that were used in ancient India, they require geometry. Other branches of mathematics are like time rate of change of planetary motion. They require knowledge of calculus. Calculating ratio of planetary positions. They require knowledge of trigonometry. So all these were rooted in India. Next. Then I will give some examples of physical sciences. Next. For physical sciences and mathematics both, there was a principle called Sulava Sutra, which is the guiding principle for temple architecture, construction, sculpting. Texts are many. Swam Sulava Sutra. Silpa Satra, Manasara, Vastu Satra, Silparatna Kosa, many more. Sulva means rope, Sutra means principle. What you can do with Sulava Sutra without using a geometry box or compass, you can construct a square without a compass. You don't require a compass to do all these things. The list is many. I have given three, four things. You can construct a square. From the square, you can convert it into a circle of same area. Similarly, convert it into a triangle of same area using only a rope and a nail. That much is the requirement. And with that, people use to construct temples or many other things which looks like vimanas are temples that you see from outside. Then arches, those are used in palaces or temples. Pillars are used in palaces or temples. So based on this, they had knowledge of architecture, they have knowledge of civil engineering, all knowledge were there. Next. These are some other sets that we can do using Sulva Sutras. You can look at these complexities of the shapes. Next. Then gravity. We know gravity and laws of motions are attributed to Newton. There is a compilation on gravity which is called Vaisheshika Darsana by uh, Rishi Kannada. I'll tell you what is that when he compiled it. Gravity is derived from the word gravis. Gravis is a Latin word and it comes from the Sanskrit word guru. Its equivalent Sanskrit is guru. Guru means heaviness or masterfulness. From that gravity has come. So people in India at least knew about gravity. If you don't say that gravity is taken from India, we can say people in India knew about gravity. Bharata, the knowledge in India was on gravity was available earlier. Next. Now let us look at laws of motion. So I am not calling it Newton's laws of motion, but I am calling it laws of motion because why I am calling it that will be clear. Newton gave the laws in the 17th century, but Rishi Kannada was before 600 BC, after 600 BC. Now let us look at the first law. What did Rishi Kannada say? He gave two slokas. Karma, which is force. This is common for motion of bodies in collision or in separation. Second sloka says, bodies cannot produce own force, which must be external. If you combine these two, then it says karma is necessary for motion of bodies in collision or separation, which cannot come from within but has to be external. Now, what did Newton say? Newton said, or which is the first law, an object at rest remains at rest, and an object in motion remains in motion at constant speed and in a straight line unless acted on by an unbalanced, which is net external force. So both of them are stressing on net external force for motion of body. Now let us look at the second step. Rishi Kannada says particular effort results in particular impulse. Newton says the rate of change of momentum of a rigid body is directly proportional to the force applied on the body. So effort is force applied, and that results in the particular impulse, which is rate of change of momentum. Then the third, Kannada says the effect or kalya always opposes the action or karma. Newton says to every action there opposes an equal action. So everything was there in versus equation. Newton gave it independently without knowing versus equation. We are not saying that Newton read versus equation and wrote this. Newton gave these independently. Before that, in India, these were also there. In Indian knowledge system, these were also there. So Newton is brilliant, so also is Rishi Kannada. Next. Then on this um, Al-Biruni, he writes on India in one of his books. Al-Biruni is uh, Arabic scholar, very well-known Arabic scholar. Actually, if you read the book, he is criticizing the Indian knowledge system, but is describing the Indian knowledge system. So what he described about Indian knowledge system is taken as his contribution. It is not his contribution. He says all heavy things are attracted towards the center of earth. He does not say it. He says that before that, if you read, he thought that. He thought that means Bhaskarajarya thought that all heavy things are attracted towards the center of earth. Then Al-Biruni says, on the contrary, if that were the case, etc. So he is not accepting that, he is saying on the contrary, because he is not accepting earth as a sphere, it is a fact. So Gurutvakarshana was given by Bhaskarajarya. Next. So evolution of gravity, this gives the timeline. Let us leave it out. Even. Then life science. In life science, the excellence in life science. We have two things. I will skip this mostly. One is called Shiva Purana. It describes the thought of fetus, development of fetus, anatomy of a newborn, etc. in Shiva Purana are there. Anatomy of a human body is also there in Uma Samhita. Uh, what is there in the 26 to 28 slokas describing the thinking of the fully developed fetus, which indicates the development of cognitive capability in the fetus while in the mother's womb. But this has not been proved in the modern science. Modern medical science is silent about this. They neither contradict this nor accept this. Then the 32nd sloka, this describes the pain the fetus experiences within the womb. This also is neither contradicted nor accepted in the modern medical science. Then about anatomy, there it describes the newborn has 360 bones, 500 muscles, etc. This is to somewhat accepted by modern medical science. Next. Then we have in the knowledge system something called Garbha Upanishada, which came after the Shiva Purana, which was written by Piparada Maharshi, and it was the translation of Upanishads were done by Paul Dishon. Paul Dishon was a very good friend of Swami Vivekananda. He described or he translated all the Upanishads, and very detail he described the Garbha Upanishad in this book. It contains the scheme of human anatomy, development process of human fetus, gender of fetus and conception of twins, and psychological and spiritual state of the fetus, the anatomy of the newborn child. Next. This is the fetus development stages with time, days and months. But they are similar but not equal to modern medical science because modern medical science gives it in terms of weeks. So it is difficult to match exactly what is there. Next. Then for botany people or agriculture people or related people there is another thing called Brukhya Ayurveda. So in the Brukhya Ayurveda, there are 12 chapters. It starts by uh, discussing types of soil fertility, need of water for the soil, etc., gradation, biology of different plants and trees, senses and stimulation in trees, methods and techniques of irrigation, etc. Finally, it says importance of trees for humanity in the 12th chapter. That also is given in the Matsya Purana, which says 1 pound is equal to 10 wells, 1 lake is equal to 10 ponds, 1 child is equal to 10 lakes, one a tree is equal to 10 children. So this decides or describes how important is the tree. Next. Then how it eroded this system, the knowledge system, how it eroded over time. Next. So it eroded by the interest of Sanskrit in Europe, which was not there till the 16th century. Mostly a German priest, Henrik Rode, in the 17th century, he first came to Agra, learned Sanskrit to understand Indian culture, wrote a Sanskrit grammar book in 1662. Then Warren Hastings, following the Palasi War in 1757, he ordered to study Sanskrit language, Indian languages, to understand the culture of India and lifestyle and for better administration, ease of administration. 1784, he established Asiatic Society of Bengal. Next, the first Britishers learning Sanskrit at Banaras is Charles Wilkinson, who translated portions of Bhagavad Gita, Hitopadesa, Mahabharata, etc. 1786, the Chief Justice of India, the British Chief Justice William Jones, he learns Sanskrit and translates Manusmriti and Abhijnana Sankutaram. These were not proper translation because they did not know Sanskrit properly. Next. And then this is very controversial. Robert D. Novelli in 1778, he came to India, studied Vedic scriptures, declared himself as a Roman Brahmin, translated Vedas into French language called Vedam. Later, it is proved that this is completely distorted and wrong. The translation is completely distorted and wrong. The purpose of learning Sanskrit in Europe was basically they were learning they were administrating different portions of India because of colonial rule. So in administration, it is easy to rule and administration, prove their culture and work to be noble, then convince Indians or the people as uncivilized based on that, and then keep British civilization at higher place. Finally, using that, they can convert to Christianity, adopt the culture of British culture, British Christian culture. Then it will be easy to administer. Next. 1793, the Baptist Church under William Carey established a mission at Serampur near Kolkata. It tried to propagate Christianity and teach superiority of Bible in those days. Then for that, they used to organize debates for converting Indians to Christianity, for convincing and converting. At that time, Raja Ram Mohan Rai was establishing Brahma Samaj in Bengal. Next. He had deep understanding of Vedas. So when there was debate, Ram Mohan Rai was winning the debates. So 1818, William Adams, he called to convert Raja Ram Mohan Rai. to Christianity. So 1818 to 1821. Adams started debating 3 years. There was continuous debate with Ramon Rai, between Ramon Rai and Adams. Then finally, Adams was greatly influenced by Raja Ramon Rai, adopted the Sanatana practices, but he was removed by Mission Society, London, in 1882, 1822. He writes, I do not hesitate to confess that I am unable to remove the weighty objections which present themselves against the doctrine. Next. Uh, then they found out, the British found out what is the problem, why they are not being successful, and how to solve this. They found out the problem. Next. Problem is the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. This concept was the reason for losing debates in India. Solution was somehow prove that the Vedas propagate Bahudeva Bhava, which is polytheism. So once you describe that this is the problem, then debate will be between monotheism and polytheism, which advantages to monotheism or conversion to it. Then Vedas, for that, Vedas are required to be translated to suit to the requirement of conversion. So they require a translate. Now, who should be a translator? Preferably, he should not be a British for acceptance by Indians because British were ruling India. Second, his knowledge in Sanskrit and English should be manageable, should not be very proficient in Sanskrit and English. Then it can be the translation can be biased. Then to promote the Christianity, and then there should be he should be a Christian. Better he should be a Christian rather than from any other religion. So this was the uh, qualities in the translator. Now let us look at what they tried to translate the Rig Veda. Rig Veda or any other Veda has mandalas. Rig Veda has 10 mandalas. Each mandala has sukta. Sukta describes Rusi, Devata, Chanda, and Swara. And it has many of those your chapters. Chapters have astakas, then varga, then mantras. Rig Veda has total of 10,580 mantras. Next. Now, to understand Rig Veda or any Veda, one should have 8 to 10 years of time, devoted time, complete devoted time to understand that Veda. He should know deeply the Panini's Astadhyay and the then only one can translate it. Now, Rusi, according to Panini's Astadhyay and Nirukta, Rusi is the Drishta. Drishta means who realized the mantra. Who has written the mantra. It is not who has written the mantra, who has realized the mantra. What is being said, he has realized it. Devata means not deity or God, but it is the subject of the group of mantras. Chanda means how the mantra is constructed, and Swara is how to pronounce those mantras. Next. So without that knowledge, it is difficult to translate well. Now comes a very famous chair at Oxford University, which is called Boden chair. Next. Till 1810, there was no scope of learning Sanskrit in England. Nobody knew there. Joseph Boden, who was a lieutenant in East India Company in India, he took leave from the army and donated all his earnings to Oxford, which is around 25,000 pounds in those days, to establish a chair in Sanskrit at Oxford, and finally registered his will for this chair at Canterbury, UK in 1811. This is the portion of his will which says Sanskrit language. If you look at this, Sanskrit language, professorship in Sanskrit language. So Sanskrit language is to be taught. For that, with the opinion that a more general and critical knowledge of that language, which means Sanskrit language, will be a means of enabling my countrymen means British people, to proceed in the conversion of natives of India to the Christian religion. So he donated with this purpose, not to learn Sanskrit, um, to achieve this purpose. Next. And that chair was formed. H. Wilson in 1832 became the first Borden professor of that chair. His goal was to make Christian missionaries in UK proficient in Sanskrit for religious conversion. 24 years he had spent in India before taking this in 1832 and learned Sanskrit. He had authored a book, The Religion and the Philosophical System of Hindus. Objective of this book was that it contained many lectures. Uh, and for those lectures, he wanted to help candidates for a prize of £200. In 1832, £200 was very much a hefty amount, given by John Muir for a Sanskrit scholar for best refutation of the Hindu religious system. Next. For this work, he was searching for a Sanskrit scholar in Europe. Now comes the IC. Friedrich Max Muller, we put him in very high esteem in India, but many people put him in that esteem. He was son of William Muller, who was a poet and a librarian. He is German. Next. He did his PhD in philology, which is language, within 18 months at the early age of 20 from University of Leeds. So exceptionally brilliant student. He read about or he expertised in structure of ancient languages. 1844, he went on to take up the work of translating Upanishads for his postdoc with German philosopher Friedrich Schilling and learned Sanskrit with German linguist Franz Bock. So he did not know Sanskrit properly, started learning it with Bock. Then he moved to Paris to learn more Sanskrit from Bornholm. So Bornholm encouraged him to translate Rig Veda. These were good people. Bornholm was a very good person. Bob was a very good person until then. Max Muller was also an excellent person, excellent scholar, with interest in learning Sanskrit, learning Indian culture, learning Vedas, etc. What is there in Vedas. Then he Rig Veda was not available anywhere in Europe except in England. So Max Muller was as he was encouraged to take up this work. He was looking for a chance to go to England next. But he needed funds to settle in England. That comes from these two letters. From his diary, I must live most economically and avoid every expense not actually necessary. This he writes in 1845. Then to his mother in December he writes, with the money you gave, just Saint shall manage till January or February. So he was in their need of funds. So he applied for the project, a translation of Veda project. Next. And Burnoff recommended him to Wilson. Burnoff knew Wilson as a scholar, so he recommended him without knowing the intention of Williams. Bob, etc., at that time were very old, and Maxwell was comparatively young, so he was selected for the project on 15th April 1847. Next. And he was very proud of Nobel, who wrote this Yajurvedam. And he took him as his idol, believed that Nobel was the first Sanskrit scholar of Europe. He took inspirations from Nobel in his early days, and he believed that Yajurvedam is not the work of Nobel. Next. Once he got the project, he wrote a letter to his mother, which reads like this. I'm not going to read the letter, only the highlighted portion you see. The work is really so light I could take another post with him, which means translating Yajurveda, he took it to be a very light work. It is of no consequence and he can work on other projects at the same time. Although he did not work because he was getting FT amount, so he did not require to go for other work. But he took it not, he didn't took it very serious. The translation was not very serious for him. Next. Then let us look at the translator who is Max Muller. First, his English knowledge he is going to write, translate it into English. While in France, he was learning English from Dwarikanath Tagore, brother of Rabindranath Tagore, while he was in Paris. When he went to England, he was facing difficulty in communicating with his landlady in London. He got the project in 1847, but after 4 years, he did MA. So in 1847, he didn't know proper English. Now let us look at the Veda, Sanskrit knowledge, Vedic Sanskrit knowledge. He had no knowledge of Panini's Ashtadhyayi or Nirukta, never read those. This is evident from his description, from a description of his letter to Chabilal. 1899, he wrote a letter to Chabilal. By 1899, Max Muller was at the fag end of his life, 75 years. The letter says, we learn Sanskrit only to know about India. We can never compose in Sanskrit. So he admits that he cannot compose in Sanskrit at the age of 75 years, and he was translating Vedas, which is written in Vedic Sanskrit, into English. And next. Then comes the next week, 1833. Macaulay was appointed as Governor General's Supreme Council by East India. Next. He wanted to replace the Sanskrit with Western education system and produce such a group of people who would be Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, opinion, and intellect. Next. October 1844, Lord Hardinge, the Governor General, he passed a resolution. The resolution is government jobs will favor English educated Indians and it will promote English over Indian culture. English culture will be promoted over Indian culture. So Indian culture is to be demolished, Indian education system is to be demolished, and English education system, which is not British education system. English education systems designed for Indians so that Indians will be English in taste, opinion, and intellect. That was to be introduced. Next. At the same time, um, Maxwell was contesting for the Borden chair. He worked with Wilson, so he was far better qualified than other people. But his theological views was Lutheranism. He had no first-hand knowledge of India. He was German by birth. Against him was Monier Williams. He was born in India, learned Sanskrit in India, more radical than Boden and Wilson taken together. He had written a Sanskrit English dictionary and he gave a first public lecture in 1860 after being elected on the study of Sanskrit in relation to missionary work in India. So he became the second Boden chair. Monier William became the second English chair, and his purpose was to promote the translation of the scriptures in Sanskrit so as to enable his countrymen to protect it in the conversion, to proceed with conversion of the natives of India to the Christian religion. Next. Then Max Muller came in contact with Macaulay. So in 1855, they both came in contact. Mac Miller was German. Uh, he didn't hate Indians. But Macaulay was British, he was racist, therefore he hated Indians. Uh, uh, this German person wanted to propagate concepts of Sanskrit language for religious conversion, but Macaulay did not like the propagation of Sanskrit or any such language among young British scholars. Max Muller praised the Bible, which was correct, Jesus and Christianity, which is also correct, to promote missionary work, which is also correct. He didn't force anything, he praised it. But Macaulay, his focus was only on British as political and religious matter. And Macaulay was very sure. He prevailed over Max Muller and he was able to change the mindset. Max Muller wrote to his mother that Macaulay and I had a long conversation with him on the teaching necessary for the young men who are sent out to India. He is very clear headed and extraordinarily eloquent. I went back to Oxford, a sadder and I hope a wiser man. From this point, Max Miller changed his views, changed his method of translation, and started working towards this mostly towards meeting the requirement of British administration. Next. So the Marcellus education system that he wanted to propagate is with this aim. If you want to destroy the nation, lower the standard of education. The education system that he was going to introduce in India was don't think, but follow blindly. Remember, but don't understand. There is no scope for intellectual growth. They left, but the system is still followed, particularly after the independence. We blindly follow this system. Next. Then let us look at the translation. Language that he chose for the translation was Sion, not the Vedic Sanskrit. Reason is Sion language, it used to keep the Vedic karmakanda at the highest and can be easily deformed. Next. Dated the Vedas back to 1200 BC without giving any proof. Com- Composers like Vishwamitra, rishis like Vishwamitra, Bharadwaja, etc., are the composers of Veda. But they were not the composers. They realized the mantras. Devata, he said there are many gods and they are worshipped at different times. Then I said this henoitism or Bahudeva Vada is prevalent in Veda. Next. And then he said large number of Vedic hymns are childish in the extreme tedious, low, and commonplace. His final observation was this. Then he contradicts himself. Uh, Date. He is not certain about the date. We could not hope to be able to lay down any terminus view whether the Vedic humans are composed 1000, 1500, 2000, or 3000 BC. No power on earth could ever fix it. But he fixed it to 1200 BC. Then he said, God is just. So he has given the knowledge when he created the human beings. Then he contradicts him, saying that when Moses or Jesus came, then the knowledge was revealed. Then Vedic creation came, same thing. Then shift towards monotheism. Finally, in one of his letters, he says the earliest known religious form of the Aryan race is as nearly as possible a pure monotheism. Yes, that is perfectly true. But it was undoubting monotheism in one sense, perhaps the happiest monotheism, yet not safe against doubts and negations. So he was very confused when he was writing because he has to uh, give it a twist. So he was not able to translate it properly and give what write what he wanted to write. So he was contradicting. Next. These are some of his letters, uh, but I will read only the part that he wrote to his wife. Vedas is the root of their religion, and to show them that what that root is, I feel sure the only way of uprooting all that has sprung from it during the last 3,000 years. That was the purpose of his translation. And he was convinced that he will not live to see the uprooting. Next. Now, with that, we know how the erosion occurred through two things. One is British politics and administration. Second is trials to convert. These two were mixed together and imposed on us. Now initiative. Now I will take about 5 to 7 minutes, not more than that. The NEP has two words. New education policy, it has two words now: holistic and multidisciplinary, as which we call Lakshya and Sadhana. What is our Lakshya? You should fix your Lakshya and you should fix your Sadhana to know what was there in India. Dharmendra Pradhan, he says that Indian knowledge system holds solutions to many of the world's challenges. Why? Literature, cultural, social practices, historical evidence, and other subsystems which are assets. These are available in all Indian languages. All Indian languages, dialects, and geographical regions, they will come under the ambit of IKS Indian knowledge system. Now, for Indian knowledge system, we have formed an innovative cell under Ministry of Education, which is working at AICTE in New Delhi. This will promote interdisciplinary research on all aspects of IKS, and it will try to preserve and disseminate IKS for further research and societal application. It has just started. Then with that, what we'll do is, or what we'll get is, we'll spread rich heritage and traditional knowledge of India through art and culture, agriculture, basic sciences, engineering technology, architectures, etc. Many more are there. Some of these I have discussed today. Next. UGC NET syllabus 2022 have introduced the IKS. So there are two papers there now. Next. Then what is the basis of Bharatiya knowledge system? Uh, it says that Sa Vidya Ya Vimuktare, and this is the mantra. We can know political science and economics in very short one word, Raja Karasya Karana. Bharatiya studies, what is there? It says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Everything is what family. Bharatiya literature, Gunavanta Vishwan Arjun. So Bharatiya knowledge connects the youth to their root in this region. Then what is knowledge, or what is jnana that I am discussing? There is a doha, Tulsidasa's doha. Godhana, Gajadhana, Bajidhana, और रतन धन खान जब आवत संतोष धन सब धन धुरी समान, which means if you get the satisfaction, the wealth of satisfaction, in front of that no other wealth has any meaning. Everything is like a dust if you have the wealth of satisfaction. How to get that wealth of satisfaction? Na hi jnanena sadrusam pavitramahi vidyate. So you have to have jnana. There is nothing which is better than jnana, which is more pious than jnana to give you satisfaction. And so for that you will get darshana, or which is called philosophy, that gives you jnana and vidyas. These are closely connected. Philosophy is the system or the point of view which leads to Jnana, Vidya or discipline when it is organized and systemized knowledge about a particular domain for the purpose of reflection and pedagogy, etc. So if you add these two, medium of instruction should be vernacular or local language, and part of learning should be Indian knowledge. If these two are added, vernacular language and Indian knowledge, then these two are going to change the present education system and uh, instead the IKS within the present education system. Next. With that, I thank you for being patient and staying with me for this long period. Thank you. I am open. If you have any questions, I will be
Yeah,
happy
thank
to.
you very much, sir. Now this talk is open for discussion. Sir will be happy to answer a couple of questions if anyone has. This is an elaborative discussion of Indian knowledge system, starting from Vedas to Sanskrit and so many things Sir has covered. So probably he will be happy to answer a couple of questions. Yes, Mr. Misra, Bamjit Misra, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra. Thanks for this enlightening session. I must admit that all of us must have learned a lot from today's session. Thanks a lot to you. I have very rudimentary or very basic question or doubt I have that probably I could not listen to you properly, and maybe maybe the fault is on my part. Uh, uh, did you say that knowledge and jnana they're two separate things?
Yes.
If
Yes.
so, can you please throw a little more light on it? I'm sorry I'm bothering you, but can some more light be thrown on it?
Okay. Now let me give you an example that I gave in the beginning. You go through Google. Suppose you have fever. You go through Google for fever, paracetamol. It will prescribe paracetamol. So you take paracetamol. Fever is reduced, but it continues with you. So that is your knowledge. From Google, you got knowledge. That for fever, I will take paracetamol to get cure, but you are not cured because you didn't have jnana. Then you go to the doctor who has jnana. He will say that do the blood test, do a urine test, and from that you will find out what is the problem, what is the problem. Then he will prescribe you the medicine because he has jnana. Am I clear?
Yes, yes.
Am I audible? Yes. So this learning from Google is externalization of something. Whatever you wanted to know, you know from Google. Know from know comes the word knowledge. Know with understanding. That is Gyan.
Okay. Then how do you translate knowledge into any of our vernacular? Let's say translate knowledge into Sanskrit. Which word will you find?
Hmm. Many Sanskrit words don't have an exact English translation.
Right,
Jnana,
right.
Jnana is one of those.
Right.
Dharma is one of those. These are many Sanskrit words. They don't
Right.
have exact English translation. You use the translation which is nearest to it.
Okay.
That's
Is
what.
Right.
is
Absolutely. Okay.
is
Thank
is is wisdom close to jnana that you're referring to?
Wisdom, yes, wisdom is more close to them. Right.
Yeah, we always see wisdom at a higher level than knowledge,
Knowledge,
That's
right,
right. That's
right?
right.
right, right.
Thanks, Dr. Patra. Thanks, Dr. Mishra. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Mishra. Uh,
Yes, sir.
so it was really a wonderful talk. I can really understand that how well researched the topic was and the passion with which you have presented it. I was really excited the way, with the passion with you started and with the same rhythm you completed. Uh,
Sir,
uh,
I am having fever for last 3 days. With fever, I
oh,
am. I have
so,
UTI and
yeah.
I have a bed sore, so it is difficult to sit,
Oh,
difficult to speak. So that is why I in the beginning said, "Am I audible?" My voice has come
okay,
down.
okay. I can see, yes, yeah. But you have the same strength and the same level of interest, in spite of all your uh, ailments and everything. Yeah. So that's wonderful. Maybe it's not a question, just I was thinking
Yes, sir.
whether at this point of time, as the world is moving,
Hmm.
uh, is it necessary that we should always go back to the Indian knowledge system? Whether the young generation is going to benefit from for going back to the Indian knowledge system, because we have moved ahead, and those who take interest in the Indian knowledge system, they continue to do so. But whether there will be a real benefit by reiterating, I mean, it looks like, because I also talk to many of the young students, they say it's like putting a brake. Things were moving fine, but again, why there is an imposition, something like that. Do you think anyway it's going to help us, or you should follow the trend and still will remain competitive in a global world with the way we have been doing things all these years?
Sir, there are two parts to this. One is the science part. Modern science has moved away. Modern science has moved ahead. So we cannot use the Indian knowledge system in modern science. The reason is what we learn, what those people learn. Beyond that, progress has been made. What we can do is we can say that okay, those people used to know this and this has been extended to this point. So the Indian knowledge system can be in the school beginning part in science. Like I showed this Newton's laws. So when you are not living Newton's laws, so when you read or discuss about Newton's laws, also you discuss about the contribution of other people from India, Kannada, contribution of Kannada from India, that you can discuss. But we cannot leave out what progress we have already made. So from that we can continue with that progress because that is discontinued. The Indian knowledge system is discontinued. The other part is literature, art, administration, political science. Those are relevant. They have not become irrelevant. So
I
that
think
part
both.
can be.
So in that sense, I think both should coexist. One should not
Oh,
take the place of others, right?
right, right.
We must
Definitely.
derive. We must see both the worlds and derive the best for us, and move on, right?
Move on, right,
Yeah.
right.
So once again, thank you so much, Mr. Babu, for
Uh,
such a wonderful talk.
yeah,
Really
yes,
excited.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you, sir.
before you close the session, may I request everyone who are present, can you just switch on your video so that we'll take a snap for our reference? Yeah. So I request everyone to, yeah.
Maybe you can give one more chance. People may love to ask.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So thank you, sir, for sparing your time. I thank everyone for their kind attention. So in the week, actually we had a lot of students also, first year students, but due to their classes and all other activities, many of them could not join, but the YouTube link is there. So probably they can watch the video later on. So I thank sir for sparing his time despite of his, ill health. He could join us and to illuminate with all of us, the basic and the beauty of this Indian knowledge system. I also thank our alumni members of Barampur University, our student friends, our faculty members, those who are present. Thank you everyone for joining with us. So that's all from the alumni association today. So we'll continue to have such lectures later on. Professor Manas sir is there, Trinath sir is there, so probably they can also help us in these type of talk later on.
Sure, sure.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So, yeah, good day, good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Okay.